I still remember the golden era of arcades, the clinks of quarters, the glow of neon cabinets, and the thrill of chasing high scores with friends shoulder to shoulder. Over the decades, home consoles and PC gaming nearly crushed that scene, pushing arcades into the shadows. But now we're witnessing a remarkable comeback as developers reimagine classic arcade titles in fresh, modern formats. I've been diving into these digital revivals myself, and let me tell you, the nostalgia is real and the gameplay kicks harder than ever. In this video, we're going to explore 17 awesome modern arcade remake gems that you can play right now if you're craving that old-school rush. Let's begin. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection. When I jumped into Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, I felt like I'd been tossed into a haunted blender set to maximum nostalgia and pain. The game wastes no time reminding us why the series is legendary for its relentless challenge. If you're looking for a gentle stroll, you might want to pack extra armor and maybe a spare pair of underpants. Capcom developed and published this title, and knowing the original creator, Tokuro Fujiwara, was involved, I could sense the respect for the franchise's roots. It's a love letter to the arcade days, and I half expected my Switch to start demanding quarters every time I died. As I played, I was transported back to the days when every jump and attack had to be perfectly timed, and the only thing more certain than death was the red Aramer showing up to ruin my day. The story is classic. I'm Arthur, a knight on a quest to rescue Princess Prin Prin from the clutches of Demon Lord Astaroth. It's simple, but it gives me all the motivation I need to keep pushing through the gauntlet of ghouls, zombies, and other nasties. Gameplay is where Resurrection both shines and occasionally makes me want to throw my controller. The platforming is precise, the enemies are relentless, and the difficulty is as punishing as ever. There are new difficulty options and checkpoints which help, but the core challenge remains. I found myself laughing and crying as I lost my armor for the 100th time. Arthur's fashion sense is truly bare bones. The music is a highlight, with remixed classic tunes that kept me pumped even as I was repeatedly sent back to the start. The graphics, with their hand-drawn storybook style, are gorgeous and give the game a unique, almost puppet theater vibe. If you're up for a challenge and don't mind seeing Arthur in his boxers more than you'd like, this is a resurrection worth experiencing. Ninja Warriors once again. The game wastes no time, throwing us right into the action with a satisfying blend of old-school challenge and modern polish. If you ever wanted to know what it's like to be a ninja android on a mission to save the world, this is your ticket. Developed by Natsume Atari's Tengo project and published by E9 Games and Taito, this 2019 release is a loving remake of the 1994 SNES classic, which itself was a reimagining of Taito's 1987 arcade original. It's clear the developers know their source material inside and out, and their passion for the genre shines through every pixel and punch. The story is classic sci-fi cheese in the best way. We play as android ninjas, built by rebel scientists to overthrow the evil dictator Banglar and his army of brainwashed minions. It's not Shakespeare, but it gives us all the motivation we need to punch, kick, and slash our way through waves of enemies. I mean, who wouldn't want to save the world with a little help from some robot friends? Each of the 5 playable characters has a unique style, from the balanced Kunoichi to the hulking ninja and the speedy Kamaitachi. The addition of 2 new characters, Yaksha and Raiden, adds even more variety. The movesets are surprisingly deep, and I kept discovering new combos and tricks long after I thought I'd mastered the basics. The action is fast, fluid, and just the right amount of punishing. If you're not careful, you'll be seeing the game over screen more often than you'd like. At least Arthur isn't here to lose his armor, but I did lose my dignity a few times. The high-resolution pixel art is both faithful to the SNES original and beautifully modernized, with vibrant colors, detailed backgrounds, and smooth animations. Every character move feels weighty and satisfying, and the environments are packed with little touches that make the world feel alive, even if most of it is about to be blown up by a ninja robot. Every stage is accompanied by energetic, bass-heavy tracks that kept me pumped up and ready to take on whatever the game threw at me. If you've never thrown a punch to a shamisen-powered synth anthem, you're missing out. Personally, I had a blast with this game. It's a perfect blend of nostalgia and modern design, and I found myself coming back for just one more run more times than I care to admit. Double Dragon Neon. Developed by WayForward Technologies and published by Majesco Entertainment, Double Dragon Neon hit the scene in 2012, bringing the classic beat-em-up franchise back with a fresh coat of neon paint. WayForward's reputation for reviving retro properties is well-earned, and I could tell right away that the team had a genuine affection for the source material. The single-plane action, the classic enemy types, and the bro energy between Billy and Jimmy Lee all felt like a love letter to the original Double Dragon games, but with a wink and a nudge that let me know the developers were in on the joke. The story is gloriously simple. Marion gets kidnapped, again, and it's up to us, Billy and Jimmy, to punch, kick, and high-five our way through waves of goons, mutants, and the delightfully hammy villain Skullmageddon. The plot is pure 1980s action movie nonsense, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Gameplay is where Double Dragon Neon both honors and updates the formula. The controls are tight, the combos are satisfying, and the new Gleam Dodge mechanic adds a layer of strategy that kept me on my toes. The mixtape system, which lets us collect and equip different abilities and stat boosts, gave me a reason to experiment and replay levels. Co-op play is a blast, especially when you and a friend start high-fiving for health or trading lives. Just try not to argue over who gets the last soda. With a synth-heavy soundtrack by Jake Kaufman that remixes classic Double Dragon tunes and throws in some original bangers. Visually, the game pops with bold colors, exaggerated character designs, and backgrounds that ooze retro charm. The graphics strike a perfect balance between nostalgia and modern polish, and every punch, kick, and explosion feels satisfyingly weighty. If you're ready to unleash your inner Lee brother and don't mind a few groan-worthy jokes along the way, this is one trip down memory lane that's absolutely worth taking.
You win!
Super Street Fighter II Turbo HD Remix. If you ever wanted to see Ryu's headband in glorious HD, or hear Guile's theme remixed to perfection, this is your ticket. Developed by Backbone Entertainment and published by Capcom, this 2008 release is a loving remake of the legendary Super Street Fighter II Turbo. The team brought in fighting game expert David Sirlin to rebalance the gameplay, while the talented artists at Udon Entertainment redrew every character and background in crisp 1080p. The soundtrack? That's the work of Overclocked Remix, who took the original tunes and gave them a modern, energetic spin that had me bobbing my head between rounds. The story is as straightforward as ever. A global fighting tournament, a cast of colorful characters, and the eternal quest to be the best. Sure, it's not Shakespeare, but who needs deep lore when you've got Zangief spinning like a tornado? Gameplay is where HD Remix truly shines. The controls are tight, the combos are satisfying, and the rebalancing makes every character feel viable. Online play is smooth with ranked matches, tournaments, and even a quarter match mode that lets us spectate and jump in, just like the old arcade days. I did notice a few minor technical hiccups, like control settings not always saving, but nothing that made me want to throw my fight stick out the window. The graphics, meanwhile, are gorgeous. Udon's hand-drawn sprites and backgrounds pop with color and detail, even if the animation still feels rooted in the original game's timing. It's like seeing your favorite Saturday morning cartoon get an HD reboot, but with more fireballs and fewer commercials. As a hidden gem, Super Street Fighter II Turbo HD Remix is a must-play for fans of classic fighters. The biggest con is probably its adherence to old-school design. There aren't a ton of extra modes or unlockables, and the single-player experience is pretty bare-bones. Some purists might nitpick the new art style or balance tweaks, but for me, it's all part of the charm. Galaga Legions DX. Created by Bandai Namco, Galaga Legions DX hit the scene as a modern reimagining of the classic Galaga formula. The team behind it clearly has a deep love for the original, but they weren't afraid to crank up the speed, the visuals, and the chaos to 11. It's a game that respects its roots while gleefully tossing in new ideas, and I could feel that energy from the very first stage. Story isn't really the focus here, and honestly, I didn't miss it. We're pilots, the bugs are invading, and it's up to us to save the galaxy one wave at a time. Sometimes, simplicity is the best motivator, especially when you're too busy dodging laser grids to worry about plot twists. The twin-stick controls are tight and responsive, letting me zip around the screen while unleashing a barrage of firepower. The game constantly throws new enemy formations and attack patterns at us, and I found myself grinning every time I managed to thread the needle through a particularly nasty wave. The addition of satellite pods adds a layer of strategy, letting us set up ambushes and cover our flanks. It's fast, it's frantic, and it's the kind of game that makes you want to chase high scores just to prove you can survive a little longer. I did lose track of my ship a few times in the chaos, but hey, if you're not getting lost in the neon, are you really playing Galaga? Every explosion feels satisfying, and the whole game has a slick, modern arcade vibe that I couldn't help but love. The music is a pulsing electronic soundtrack that kept my adrenaline up and my thumbs moving. It's not the most memorable set of tunes, but it fits the action perfectly and never gets in the way of the on-screen mayhem. I had a blast with Galaga Legions DX. It's a game that knows exactly what it wants to be: fast, flashy, and unapologetically arcade. Strider. I felt like I'd been handed a Cyber Ninja's backstage pass to a non-stop action concert. Strider was developed by Double Helix Games in collaboration with Capcom's Osaka studio, and published by Capcom. It's a reboot of the classic 1989 arcade game. It is available on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PC, so there's no excuse for not joining the Ninja Party. The story is classic arcade fare, but with a modern twist. We step into the shoes of Strider Hiryu, the youngest ever Super A-ranked agent of the Strider organization. Our mission? Infiltrate the dystopian metropolis of Kazakh City and take down the iron-fisted dictator, Grandmaster Mayo. The plot is straightforward, but it gives us all the motivation we need to keep moving forward and slicing up anything that stands in our way. The controls are buttery smooth, letting me dash, climb, and slash with a speed and fluidity that made me feel unstoppable. Hiryu's Cypher Sword can be upgraded with new abilities, and the interconnected world is packed with secrets, upgrades, and challenging bosses. The platforming is tight, the combat is fast, and the boss battles are a highlight, especially when I found myself fighting a giant robotic dragon in midair. The only thing sharper than Hiryu's blade is the learning curve, but the generous checkpoints kept frustration to a minimum. Visually, Strider is a slick blend of 2.5D graphics and anime-inspired style. The environments are mostly industrial and a bit drab, but the character animations and effects pop off the screen. Every slash, jump, and explosion feels satisfying, and the game's art direction is a clear love letter to its arcade roots. Of course, no ninja adventure is perfect. I did find the environments a bit repetitive after a while, and the map layout could be confusing, especially when I was backtracking for upgrades. The story is pretty bare bones, so if you're looking for deep lore, you might want to bring your own scrolls. And let's not talk about the final boss. Let's just say I lost more lives there than Hiryu has pixels. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time Reshelled. This game felt like I'd been handed a shell-shaped portal straight back to the arcade glory days, except this time, instead of the classic 2D sprites, I was watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles strut around in 3D with all the grace of action figures that had been left out in the sun. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time Reshelled was developed and published by Ubisoft Singapore. The story follows the classic Turtles in Time formula. The Turtles are watching April O'Neil report on TV when Krang swoops in with his massive exosuit and steals the Statue of Liberty because apparently even alien warlords have tourist instincts. Shredder then hijacks the airwaves to taunt our heroes, leading to a chase through the streets and sewers of New York before the Turtles get sent through a time warp. From there, it's a shell-slinging journey through various time periods, from prehistoric times to the far future, as the Turtles battle through Shredder's army to get back home. The core mechanics remain faithful to the original arcade experience. I could choose from all 4 turtles, each with their own stats, and button mash my way through waves of foot soldiers. The biggest gameplay change is the addition of 8 directional attacking, which means I could finally hit enemies that weren't perfectly lined up with me. A welcome upgrade from the original's more restrictive combat. The game supports up to 4 players both locally and online, which is great for reliving those couch co-op memories, though I did find that the screen could get pretty cluttered with all 4 turtles on screen at once. The entire experience can be completed in under an hour, making it shorter than a Michelangelo attention span. Visually, Reshelled is a complete 3D overhaul of the original sprites, and the results are decidedly mixed. The turtle animations are smooth and clearly derived from the original pixel art, but the overall art style feels somewhat darker and less vibrant than the arcade original. The backgrounds are clean and the enemies are nicely detailed, but many reviewers noted that the 3D models lack the charm of the original sprites. The game would have benefited from a cel-shaded approach rather than the more realistic 3D rendering it ended up with. The absence of the classic Turtles in Time theme was particularly disappointing, as it's been replaced with arrangements from the 2003 cartoon series. The voice acting comes from the cast of the 2003 TV series, which gives the game a different flavor than the original arcade experience. Personally, I found Reshelled to be a well-intentioned, but yes, it is not without its flaws. It's a great attempt at the remake that you must consume if you are a TMNT fan. Night Slashers. Night Slashers Remake is a modern take on Data East's 1993 arcade classic. The development team at Storm Trident has worked on other remakes like Front Mission and Magical Drop 6, while Forever Entertainment has built a reputation for reviving forgotten titles with projects like House of the Dead, Remake, and Panzer Dragoon remakes. The story follows the classic formula of monsters taking over the world, and it's up to our band of monster hunters to save humanity from supernatural apocalypse. We get to choose from 4 playable characters: Jake Hunter, a cyborg monster hunter from America, Christopher Smith, a European vampire hunter, Honghua Zhao, a Chinese martial arts expert, and Liu Feilin, a Chinese opera actress who's been added specifically for this remake. The plot is straightforward. The world has been overrun by the living dead, and our heroes must fight through 7 distinct stages to stop the evil plans of King Zarutz from turning the planet into a worldwide kingdom for the undead. It's simple, but it gives us all the motivation we need to keep punching through hordes of supernatural enemies. The core mechanics follow the classic beat-em-up formula, with side-scrolling action, combo attacks, and screen-clearing special moves. Each character has their own unique moveset, including running attacks, aerial attacks, grappling moves, and devastating special abilities that come at the cost of health. The game supports up to 4 players in local co-op, and there's even a custom mode where you can set your own rules, including exploding corpses and time limits. However, multiple reviewers noted that the hit detection feels off, with attacks sometimes missing when they should connect, and the combat lacks the satisfying weight of the original. The game is also quite short, clocking in at under an hour for most players. The original pixel art has been completely replaced with a cartoon-like 3D style reminiscent of early 2000s Flash games. While the art isn't technically bad, it lacks the gritty charm and detailed pixel work of the 1993 original. The music in Night Slashers Remake is genuinely one of its strongest features. You can choose between the original soundtrack by Tomoyoshi Sato and a newly remixed version, and both options deliver. It's not the best of the best remakes of all time, but it does the job, and in this case, the original was also not an A-lister game, so yeah, the fact that we are even getting a remake is a big deal here.
Everybody's getting killed!
Nobody lives here alive.
House of the Dead Remake. I jumped into the House of the Dead remake with a mix of excitement and dread. Excited because I'd spent countless quarters blasting undead in arcades and dreading that my nostalgia goggles might fog up. From the very first wave of ghouls I unloaded on, I realized this wasn't a spotless revival. It was a slightly rusted homage that still managed to thrill. The premise remains unchanged. It's 1998, and the Curian Mansion has become a hotspot for disappearances. As agents Thomas Rogan and G, we barrel through dim corridors and creaking hallways to confront Dr. Curian's abominable experiments. Rogan's drive isn't purely noble, his fiancée Sophie is among the missing. So when I saw her name on a dusty file, my heart did exactly what a zombie's brain can't. It raced. Playing feels exactly like a modernized rail shooter. I aimed with the classic analog crosshair on controllers that can feel a bit slippery, but the gyro option on Switch brought me closer to light gun precision. Unlockable weapons in the armory and a horde mode add replay value, while branching paths tease multiple endings. Local two-player co-op kept me and a friend screaming zombie in harmony, though we both secretly missed online leaderboards. I noticed the soundtrack leans into an updated orchestral vibe, trading the arcade's cheesy synths for fuller arrangements. Some tracks hit the right creepy notes, but I kept craving those original melodies that burrowed into my brain back in the 90s. The score is fine, yet it rarely haunts me after I power down the console. Visually, the Unity engine serves up sharper textures and dynamic lighting that breathe life into the mansion's decay. All told, I found myself smiling when a boss exploded in glorious slow-mo, even as a frame skip reminded me this remake isn't flawless. If you're hungry for head-popping nostalgia and can forgive a few technical stumbles, this Undead Rush has enough bite to satisfy us arcade vets. Contra Rebirth. This game feels like we have been handed a direct line to the arcade gods, one that wastes no time reminding me why the Contra franchise has been kicking gamers' digital butts since the 1980s. Contra Rebirth was developed by M2 and published by Konami for WiiWare, releasing in Japan on May 12, 2009, followed by the PAL region on September 4, 2009, and North America on September 7, 2009. M2, known for their expertise in ports and remakes, was entrusted with bringing this franchise back to its retro roots. This was part of Konami's Rebirth trilogy, alongside Gradius Rebirth and Castlevania, The Adventure Rebirth, all designed to capture the essence of their classic 16-bit predecessors. Unfortunately, the game became delisted when the Wii Shop channel closed on January 30, 2019, making it impossible to purchase legally today. The story takes place in 2633, where the Neo Salamander Force, led by Chief Salamander, travels back to 1973 to destroy the Contra Force when Earth's defenses were considered primitive. Bill Reiser and Genbei Yagyu from the present-day Contra team are deployed back in time to stop this threat. The plot is classic arcade sci-fi, simple but effective motivation to keep me blasting through waves of enemies. While the story isn't Shakespeare, it serves its purpose perfectly, giving me all the reason I need to save humanity from an alien invasion. The gameplay stays faithful to the classic formula while adding modern touches. The dual weapon system from Contra 3 returns, letting me hold two weapons and switch between them on the fly. The power-ups include the beloved spread shot, laser gun, and homing gun, though the traditional flamethrower is notably absent. I could play as Bill Reiser or Genbei Yagyu initially, with two additional characters, Brownie, an android, and Pliskin, a reptilian alien, unlockable after completing the game on easy and normal difficulties respectively. The game features co-op for up to 2 players, and I found the controls tight and responsive, whether using the Wii Remote horizontally, classic controller, or GameCube controller. The addition of unlimited continues and checkpoints made the experience more accessible without completely neutering the challenge. The art style successfully evokes nostalgia while incorporating modern touches that wouldn't have been possible on original 16-bit hardware. Some reviewers noted the graphics feel a bit shameful compared to portable entries like Contra 4, but in action, the visual effects and explosive moments keep things exciting. The main cons of Contra Rebirth center around its brevity and missed opportunities. The game features only 5 levels, plus a final boss stage, making it quite short even by Contra standards. Most players can complete it in 30 to 40 minutes, which feels insubstantial for some despite the reasonable 1,000 Nintendo points price tag. I found Contra Rebirth to be a well-crafted game of a classic series that succeeds in its goals while leaving me wanting more. While the short length is disappointing, the game delivers exactly what it promises. Tight, challenging run-and-gun action with that unmistakable Contra feel. River City Girls. After spending considerable time with this vibrant brawler, I can confidently say that WayForward and Arc System Works have delivered something truly special that both honors its roots and carves out its own unique identity. This game serves as a spin-off in the beloved Kunio-kun franchise, But what sets it apart is its bold decision to put the girlfriends in the spotlight as the main protagonists. The story follows Misako and Kyoko, two rebellious high school students who discover their boyfriends have been kidnapped. What unfolds is a delightfully over-the-top rescue mission that takes them through the streets of River City. While the plot isn't particularly deep, it serves its purpose perfectly by providing a framework for the mayhem that ensues. The characters are charming in their one-dimensional way, and the writing strikes a perfect balance between self-aware humor and genuine heart. What impressed me most about River City Girls is how it modernizes the classic beat-em-up formula without losing its soul. The combat system feels incredibly satisfying, with each character having their own distinct moveset and fighting style. I found myself genuinely enjoying the variety of attacks, weapons, and items available throughout my playthrough. The game supports both solo play and two-player co-op, and I can attest that the cooperative experience adds an extra layer of fun to the proceedings. The art style perfectly captures the anime aesthetic while maintaining crisp, detailed pixel art that feels both retro and contemporary. The character animations are fluid and expressive, and the environments are colorful and full of personality. The game features full anime-style cutscenes with voice acting that brings the characters to life, adding production value that elevates the entire experience. Some players might find the gameplay loop becoming slightly repetitive after extended sessions, and the difficulty can occasionally feel uneven. The music never feels repetitive and consistently enhances the overall experience, making even the most intense boss fights feel like celebrations rather than slogs. This is a game that understands what made classic beat-em-ups great while successfully updating the formula for modern audiences. Streets of Rage 4. The first uppercut from this game drops me again straight into pulsing synths, hand-drawn brawlers, and that warm certainty that every smashed phone booth will spit out restorative chicken. I soon reminded myself who to thank. French studio Dodemu steered production, co-developing with the talented artists at Lizard Cube and the combo-savvy engineers of Guard Crush Games, while also publishing the final package under Sega's approving gaze. 10 years have passed since Axel Stone and Blaze Fielding cleaned up Wood Oak City, yet trouble predictably multiplies. The sinister Y-twins, heirs to the fallen Mr. X, hijack the airwaves with mind control music, flooding streets with biker gangs, riot cops, and robo-ninjas. I lace up my gloves once more to rescue minds and punch tyranny. Each stage plays like a rhythmic dance of fists. I juggle thugs off walls, cash in risk-reward specials that drain health but can be earned back by staying aggressive, and unleash star moves that fill the screen. Up to 4 of us can share the couch, while retro characters and the Mr. X Nightmare survival mode keep me practicing long after credits roll. Olivier Derivière spearheads the soundtrack, weaving crunchy breakbeats with live guitar riffs, while legends Yuzo Koshiro and Motohiro Kawashima drop guest tracks that spike my adrenaline. The score evolves per level, layering extra instruments as combos climb, so my ears feel rewarded for my knuckles' diligence. The hand-drawn visuals by Lizard Cube splash bold outlines and comic book shading across every alley, arcade, and freight elevator. Animation frames are buttery smooth with small touches, like Axel wiping sweat or shards of neon signage scattering, that convince me I'm inside an interactive Saturday morning cartoon, only grimier. Street of Rage 4 is something that brought back a dead franchise back to life, and it sold so damn much that we are going to see a sequel very soon.
Best kisser? Why are you the best kisser?
Maybe because I practice on my hand all the time?
That just means you're the best at kissing your hand.
Come on, there's more girls outside.
Battletoads. Battletoads 2020 was developed by Dlala Studios in partnership with Rare and published by Xbox Game Studios. Knowing Rare's legacy with the original series, I could sense the reverence for the source material, but Dlala's fresh energy is all over this reboot. The game was released for Xbox One and PC, and it's clear the developers wanted to bring the Toads back for both old fans and a new generation. The story is a tongue-in-cheek romp that doesn't take itself seriously for a second. We play as Rash, Zitz, and Pimple, the Battletoads, who have been stuck in a fantasy simulation for decades, completely forgotten by the world. When they finally break free, they discover they're no longer famous heroes, and their quest to reclaim their glory leads them through a series of bizarre, self-aware adventures. The plot is packed with meta-humor, fourth-wall breaks, and plenty of jokes at the Toad's own expense, which kept me grinning even when the action got tough. Gameplay is a wild mix of classic beat-em-up, brawling, platforming, and even some genre-bending minigames. I found myself mashing buttons through waves of enemies, dodging hazards, and occasionally piloting hoverbikes in levels that pay homage to the infamous difficulty of the original series. The combat is flashy and satisfying, with each Toad having unique moves and morph attacks that kept things fresh. Local co-op for up to 3 players is a blast, though I did wish there was online multiplayer. The game constantly throws new mechanics at us, which kept me on my toes, but sometimes the variety felt a bit forced, and a few minigames overstayed their welcome. The music is energetic and fits the game's zany tone perfectly, blending rock, synth, and cartoonish sound effects. The hand-drawn animation is vibrant and fluid, making every punch, kick, and transformation pop off the screen. The art style is bold and colorful, with exaggerated character designs and backgrounds that feel like they were ripped straight from a comic book. The cutscenes are especially impressive, blending seamlessly with the gameplay and delivering the game's humor with perfect timing. I had a blast with Battletoads 2020. It would give this game a 5 stars. Shadow of the Ninja Reborn. After 34 years in the shadows, Natsumi Atari brings us Shadow of the Ninja Reborn, developed by Tengo Project. As someone who dove into this remake, I found myself both impressed and frustrated by what it offers. Set in dystopian 2029 America, under Emperor Garuda's tyrannical rule, we play as ninjas Hayate and Kaede on an assassination mission. The story takes a backseat to action, which feels appropriate for this type of game. We're here to slice through enemies, not ponder deep narratives. The pixel art is absolutely breathtaking. I couldn't help but admire the vibrant stages, detailed enemy animations, and our protagonist's fluid movements. Iku Mizutani's remixed soundtrack is glorious, featuring those electrifying guitar riffs that perfectly capture the retro spirit while feeling fresh. Gameplay-wise, I wielded both a katana for close combat and a kusarigama, chain sickle, for range attacks. Having both weapons available from the start felt like a significant improvement. The co-op feature lets us tackle the brutal difficulty with a friend, though I mostly went solo. Enemy placement never changes. This game is all about pattern recognition, which can feel rewarding once we master it. The controls frustrated me initially. Holding down and jumping for a hover move feels unnatural, and the ninjas feel far less agile than expected with their stiff jumps. Wall climbing mechanics require awkward button combinations that never felt intuitive. My game crashed halfway through Chapter 4 on Switch, and the continue feature was grayed out, forcing me to restart talk about adding insult to injury. This remake doesn't hold our hands. It's proper old-school levels of difficulty demanding patience and memorization. We get punished repeatedly until we learn each stage's rhythm. Sometimes I wondered if the developers forgot ninjas should be nimble. Our protagonists feel more like they're wearing concrete boots than ninja tabi. "1942 Joint Strike." This downloadable title hit Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network for about $10, and I've got mixed feelings about what I got for my money. The story is pretty bare bones. We're flying alternate history Wabipu missions where 2 fighter planes essentially determine the war's outcome. I chose between 3 aircraft, the P-38 Lightning, de Havilland Mosquito, or the Kyushu Shinden, each with different stats carried over from 19XX, the War Against Destiny. Gameplay-wise, I found myself in familiar vertical scrolling territory, but with some neat twists. The health meter meant I wasn't dying from single hits like in the original 1942, and the charge shots added strategic depth. The widescreen format gave me more room to maneuver, which I appreciated when later levels flooded the screen with bullets. The titular joint strike mechanic really shines in co-op. My buddy and I could unleash devastating combined attacks, though honestly, the homing missiles in single player felt more practical. Norihiko Hibino's orchestral soundtrack left me cold. After his brilliant work on Metal Gear Solid, I expected more, but the militaristic themes felt generic and forgettable. I barely noticed the music during intense firefights, not exactly a ringing endorsement. The game transitions from 2D sprites to 3D graphics with a sepia-toned filter meant to evoke old war films. The brief cutscenes between levels looked nice, but during gameplay, everything felt brown, gray, and muddy. Some levels even ran at half the intended frame rate, making the action feel sluggish. I finished all 5 stages in under an hour. Sure, I could chase high scores or tackle harder difficulties, but they just give you fewer lives. The actual challenge doesn't change. For 800 Microsoft points, I expected more content. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I snagged Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge when Tribute Games and Dotemu dropped it in 2022, and wow, did they nail the nostalgia factor. For someone who spent countless quarters on the original arcade games, this felt like coming home, only better. The story's pretty straightforward. Bebop and Rocksteady assault Channel 6, stealing tech for Shredder and Krang's latest scheme. We're chasing them across Manhattan, from sewers to rooftops to Dimension X. Nothing groundbreaking narrative-wise, but honestly, I wasn't here for Shakespeare. I wanted to kick shell, and that's exactly what I got. This is pure beat-em-up bliss. I chose from 7 playable characters, the 4 Turtles plus April, Splinter, and unlockable Casey Jones, each with distinct movesets and playstyles. The combat feels buttery smooth with charge attacks, super moves, and special abilities that don't drain health like the old days. Story mode adds modern touches like collectibles, challenges, and character upgrades, though I've found myself gravitating toward the pure arcade experience. The 6-player co-op is absolute chaos in the best way possible. We're talking pizza-fueled pandemonium that had me and my friends howling with laughter. T-Lopes absolutely crushed the soundtrack. Coming off his work on Sonic Mania and Streets of Rage 4, he delivered 28 tracks that blend 80s nostalgia with modern production. Every sprite pops with personality, from Donatello pulling out a Game Boy during his taunt to background foot soldiers licking popsicles at the zoo. The attention to detail is staggering, with references to the 1987 cartoon everywhere I looked. My only real gripe? Length. I finished the story in about 3 hours, though replaying with different characters and chasing challenges adds replay value. Despite minor quibbles, Shredder's Revenge is the best TMNT game ever made. It respects its legacy while modernizing everything that matters. Cowabunga indeed. Ganryu 2. Just for Games and Pixel Heart published it in 2022, expecting a decent follow-up to the obscure 1999 Neo Geo original. The story follows Miyamoto Musashi, who's been chilling in Hokkaido doing some art after defeating Sasaki Kojiro. During meditation, Kojiro's spirit contacts him, threatening Japan with demonic revenge. It's inspired by The Stone and the Sword, though the narrative quickly takes a backseat to pure action. I wasn't expecting Shakespeare, but even for an arcade-style game, the plot feels paper-thin. I'm controlling Musashi through 5 lengthy stages split into acts. The mechanics feel solid. I've got a satisfying saber slash, horizontal dashes, limited kunai throws, and screen-clearing kami spells. The influence from Shinobi 3 is obvious, and when everything clicks, dashing through enemies while maintaining momentum feels fantastic. Boss battles require pattern memorization and precision timing, which I normally enjoy. Composer Steph Sira delivered a soundtrack mixing rock rhythms with traditional Japanese instruments like the shamisen and taiko drums, topped with chiptune synths. Here's where everything falls apart: performance and difficulty. On Switch, the frame rate constantly chugs, sometimes dropping to 15 FPS during busier sections. The PlayStation and Xbox versions fare better, but still suffer slowdowns. Worse, the difficulty feels cheap rather than challenging. Limited lives, punishing checkpoints that reset you to the beginning of lengthy stages, and enemies appearing without warning create frustration instead of satisfaction. Unlike Dark Souls, where I learn from deaths, here I'm just memorizing cheap tricks. Ganryu 2 feels like a game stuck between eras. Beautiful retro aesthetics hampered by archaic design choices and technical issues. This brings us to the end of the video, and if you liked what you see here, drop a sub and a like for us. See you in the next one!